I described it at the beginning as England going into the tournament as favourites. That's not because I want to do the media stuff and ramp up the pressure, turn up the gas so that you can whittle them down if it doesn't happen. But we are at a point now, aren't we, where you look at our group of players and the quality we've got. I know that we think the Portuguese are going to be a threat, right? Because we're undermining them.
Their squad,
no one's
squad
talking
is
about
as
them.
strong as ours.
But do you think it's a fair evaluation for this England team to be going in as favourites?
Favourites, probably not, because they haven't won anything, and you've got a squad, i.e. France, that have won tournaments. So on the basis of that, I would say they're favourites, but definitely like real contenders. Definitely they should be. And as an England fan and as a group of players, they should be believing they go in there to win.
I think they're favourites.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah, I think you alluded to it 2 minutes ago. It's not a strong Germany. It's not a strong Spain. It's not a strong Italy.
Yeah, but it's strong.
France, England were better than them when they let them off the lead.
I don't know.
In the World Cup.
Against France?
Yeah, in the semi-final. They were better than them in the second half. When they said, okay, then we're a goal down, we're going to take you on now.
Bet them after 20 minutes once we woke up and went, okay, we can have a go at these.
So I think the stars have aligned for England.
But again, there's an experience and a belief that comes with winning that France will have.
But what experience are you talking about?
Winning tournaments.
Do you think that really matters?
100%. 100%. You know that matters, Graham. Even a Champions League final.
If you're a top player, you think you can enter every game and win every game you play in.
100%, yeah.
Are you saying it's not about know-how, Gray? I mean, the argument's constantly made.
But these players are winning games every week.
Right, domestically, but it's a
nice different eyes.
Because you wear a different shirt. I would argue that till I'm blue in the face. I think if you're a big player, you believe you can win every single game you go on. You put that strip on, you think, I've not won anything wearing this strip, so I'm not thinking the same.
But there's different levels of pressure that come with different shirts.
Deal with it.
You played in the Scotland side in the 78 World Cup, right? You were
3 World Cups.
Okay, but let's start with the 78 World Cup, because in that side you had 3 world-class players.
The trump card.
Didn't you? You, Hansen and Dalglish.
No, the trump card is when he gets difficult. What I say is, get your medals on the table.
Yeah, we know. We've done all that bit, right? And everyone yawns and goes, we've heard all that from you. Right? What I'm saying is, it's actually a serious point, right?
Yeah.
You had 3 world-class players in your team, in the Scotland team, in 78, that were conditioned to winning. But when they played for their country, I know that there was other players in there that weren't at the same level. You played in games that Scotland could and should have done better in during that World Cup and didn't qualify. So there must be something in it.
100%.
I think football at this level, the 3 World Cups I played, and people said, oh, they were a good team, you had so-and-so, so on. Yeah, with all due respect to the guys I played with, there was 3 or 4 that weren't up to any sort of great standard. And I think you're only as strong as your weakest link.
Well, that's fair.
In football. I think, if you're vulnerable in a particular area, you'll get found out when you're playing at the highest level.
This isn't the highest level, though.
They'll prey on that.
It's the biggest honour. The highest level is Champions League.
Do you think that?
100%. If you look at...
So if you're a player today, would you rather win the Champions League than the Euros for England?
No, that's honour. The biggest honour was to play for England, but the best level of football is Champions League. Like, if you look at the Champions League players, probably 95%, 99% of them playing for their national team. Pickford doesn't play. None of the Chelsea boys play, so Cole Palmer hasn't played in the Champions League. Who else is there in the team? Luke Shaw, Man United players. They haven't played Champions League.
The vast majority of the players from all the countries playing in this Euros will be Champions League players.
Yeah, but all the Champions League players will play for their national team.
Yeah, but even a team that wins the Champions League, they're not the best in their position in that league.
I believe England are one of the favourites, 100%. So I don't think you have to consider the experience of winning a tournament.
Of course you do. But like anything, right? Like anything, you've got to go through the gears and get yourself into a situation where each step is an incremental one.
Yeah.
We've gone from a World Cup semi-final that we should have potentially won against Croatia.
And Euros we should have won.
We've got a Euros against we should have won and a French team that we should have beaten. Right, with due respect. And I know I'm being very binary, but I think there's fairness behind that. Right, so the next step...
that's facts.
I think they're facts, aren't they? So the next logical step is you take that step. And so by definition, I understand your point of view, but isn't it about mentality? You believe, Graham, that we've got 3 of the best attacking players in world football.
I think what makes England very dangerous, the hardest thing to find in football is goal scorers. The game changers, the ones who, do the business at the top end. You can be in a team that's playing really good football, but you don't have a goal scorer and you end up losing 1-0. Far better to have goal scorers and not be a great team, but these guys, given half a chance, will
Yeah.
get you out the river. I think England are very, very strong up front. I think in midfield, they're strong.
Yeah.
At the back, I think he's undecided which is the best route. So I think England's strength is about going forward
Oh, yeah.
and causing problems for opposition. And I just think with Gareth Southgate, he always has that pragmatic approach in midfield, where in the past he's used 2 sitting midfield players a great deal. Now, and I've been critical of that. I think, when you're playing lesser teams, let them off the lead. And is it because you tell me you're a centre half? Does he think I've got to go with 2 central midfield players because I don't think I'm particularly
Maybe
good
that,
at
yeah.
that?
If
What's behind
you've
me?
just said that the weakest part, not the weak part of the team, but the weakest part is the
I'm
defence.
not
So
saying
you
about
want to
players.
protect that. Like if you're, say, Holland,
So you think that's why he goes that for 2
potentially?
holding?
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, you.
But you
probably
don't want to
think,
see him doing
well,
that against Denmark and Slovenia
Against
and
lesser
Serbia.
teams.
Oh yeah, I don't think he does. I don't think he does do that.
But he
against
does
them.
Macedonia.
I don't think he does do that this time because it's the different
Well,
belief,
this
and
is the-
players are going in there with different levels of confidence.
this
Like
is the
Jude
question-
wasn't a 10 until he goes to Real
But
Madrid.
this is the question I wanted to ask you too, because I think the way you approach things in life, if you have a half-empty glass mentality, you'll achieve less. If you have a half-full glass, you'll achieve more. I think the mentality of Southgate is a key component of whether England can win this tournament or not, because the players are there. So what is the reality of being able to overcome the opposition, how you approach it? And Southgate's mentality to me, and I don't know what you guys think, is we've had
He
three...
was a centre half.
Wait, does he manage like a centre-half?
Well, I
No.
would say yes.
Granted, does he have? There's a question mark, say, over the tactical aspect of it, but in terms of the mentality he's created for the squad, I don't think they would have had as much trajectory with success if he wasn't the coach.
What mentality are you talking about? Harmony.
Belief in going to tournaments for a lot of games. Again, it's not about just belief when you get to a final because their 11 is as good as yours.
Did you think when England started against France in 2022, that the team started with belief? They sat there and looked at France and went, "Oh, it's France, it's France." And when they suddenly realised, actually, we can have a go at these.
But that does happen because
that's
it
a
is
mentality,
France.
isn't it?
But it is France. But then previously that could have lasted 70 minutes.
And Walker had Mbappe in his pocket.
In his pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that could have lasted 70 minutes. But the fact that he's there has meant, it's only lasted 20.
Do we think?
I think this team have not shown their full capability because they play with the
Handbrake on.
yes.
There's obviously games where you would say that.
You've accepted
But
their
also-
strength as their forwards.
Yes, but also you've got to accept that when you are playing the lesser teams and you want it to be expansive, they're sitting behind. They're sitting deeper. So it's harder to break
So-
down.
Tell me this: walking out of a dressing room, what was the last thing you heard from all the coaches you worked with?
Start
Make
right.
sure you start right.
Yeah, of course. But that doesn't mean you can start the same every game.
But
Like,
you've got
'cause
to
you're not-
start in a positive manner. And I think my criticism, what Simon was saying
Well,
is
okay, then we'll
that
go to the
England-
Euro final.
that
They
England-
scored after how long?
that England don't
Yeah.
always start like that.
But they did start in the biggest game of their recent history. They started exactly
They've
how
still
you...
not won anything.
So
And
there's
I-
always going to be an
and I-
argument.
Fair point.
But you're asking me
fair
for
point.
an
No, the
example
fair-
of them starting one.
the
I'm
fair
giving you,
point
and now
is-
they
That's a
didn't
fair
win.
point.
The fact is, they've not won anything.
Yeah.
Well, that's the
a
argument.
fact.
Well, that's the argument.
That's a fact. So, okay, let's ask ourselves the question, as a rich coming from a Scotsman, if they had a more aggressive approach with instead of another holding midfield player, someone who's more creative, may they have won those 2 tournaments?
Hindsight.
You can answer it.
Hindsight,
What
maybe.
we can't talk about is...
But what they've got there, if
what
they
we
would
can
have, if
say
they
is
didn't, if they
factual,
had that,
they
who
didn't.
knows?
If they'd have got to where? I mean,
Well, they've got to the final.
I'll
if
leave
they,
off.
Yeah.
Let's have this right while we have this moment to share. If we're going to talk about how you got to the finals in these tournaments, I don't think any England side in recent years has had a better set of draws against a weaker set of opposition. You already made the point that the Germans are the worst German side we've seen for some time. So we're going to use
This
the Germans as the
tournament-
poster
No,
boys
I'm
for
just
what we
saying.
beat.
I'm just
Are
saying.
you
But your
accepting
argument
the
was
strongest part
the
of the
start.
team is the forwards. Are you accepting the
100%,
strongest?
yeah, but
Well, why
that's-
not make the most of that?
But they never come short scoring. They never. It's not like they're.
Well, they have, because they didn't win every game. They didn't win the Euros and they got beaten in the semi-final.
Quarters.
They're scoring goals.
But not enough to win
do we
tournaments.
think, okay, if we think we've got the best players, then ultimately, surely it's about deploying them and getting on the front foot. And
This
that's
is
what
one
I'm
thing I
questioning
will
the
say. We
mentality
haven't
of.
clearly got the best players at the Euros. Let's put that out there.
Oh, yeah?
No,
We haven't got all the best players in all the best positions.
You have 3 or
The bulk
4.
of.
Go on, I'll debate this. This I will debate. Like, our midfield is
Right.
great. Francis is great.
Right. You got an out-and-out goal scorer in Harry Kane. You got a Jude Bellingham will get goals from midfield, as he got 20 odd in Spain last year. So if you're looking for a goal scoring midfield player, who's better than him? And I suggest the boy, your winger. I'm not sure.
Phil Foden.
I don't think there's many better than him.
No, I'm not saying there isn't. I'm just saying it's out and out. It's just like it's facts. Like Camavinga and Tuchemeni play for Real Madrid. With Jude.
But we've already said that Real Madrid are not the best Real Madrid that we've
but
ever
they've still
seen.
got 2 international players.
We're not saying. I think when you go through the England team, and remember that the world watches the Premier League, they will be looking up to these England players at this tournament. No one will want to play England because what England really do, they work their socks off. They're very well organised, and I just think they could be even more flamboyant and try and be a little bit more, on the front foot in certain games.
Okay, given what we've seen over the last 3 tournaments, and given the fact that we, Graham, ironically being a Scotsman, think that we've snatched defeat from the jaws of victory with opportunities. Do we think they've evolved to such a point that we're now looking at a very different side that played in Qatar against the French with more confidence, more belief to approach this tournament?
Yeah, more experience, more games, more understanding, more confidence. Confidence is huge. Like coming into the back of the season, that just Jude and Phil have had Declan, the 3 midfielders. They'll be as confident as anyone in the tournament.
And they're a couple of years older.
Yeah.
People say, oh, that player's been brought on by that manager. No, he's not. When he got him, he was 20. He's now 22. He's 2 years older, and he's going to get better until he's 30 years old.
Yeah.
So they are better players now than they were 2 years ago. And, of course, they got the experience.
Yeah.
Tournament football. I think they're going to do really, really well. Really well.
I think they're going to do really well.
Yeah.
And I hope. And again, that's what I think Gareth's brought is a genuine belief that we can. Like there's not, before it was a hope. And then
do you think Phil Foden needs anything from Gareth Southgate to make him feel he can win this tournament?
Well, he does. Obviously, he needs to be selected.
He's in an environment where they feel they're going to win every single game of football they're playing.
Yeah, but it's not just about Phil Foden, is it?
That doesn't stop and start when you, like Jude Bellingham will have that at 20 years old.
Yeah. There's other players that won't have that and won't be used to that. And not just that winning experience, but England, it's like, well, you may not know, but England is obviously different scrutiny for these players. Do you think it's like people are waiting them? Yeah, some of them it might. So I think
the modern player doesn't get any criticism.
Doesn't get any criticism.
I think
they can take criticism.
I think Rashford, Saka and Sancho would beg a different from when they missed them pens.
But we believe fundamentally that the mentality of this group, we're not attributing much of it to Gareth Southgate.
No, let me tell you about international football, Simon.
Yeah.
You spend so little time with your group of players, it's hard to have an influence on them. I know that.
Influence what? Tactically? Or?
In every sense.
I don't know.
In every sense.
I don't know, because Capello had a negative impact on us.
In every sense. What
That's a fair observation.
Gareth has had an extremely
He's created an environment that players want to play in.
No, an extremely fortunate situation because England, I believe, are from the best group of players they have had in my life in football.
Against the weakest international opposition at the same time.
And all the main footballing countries in Europe are not very strong at this time. That's why I think the favourites. See, it should be roundabout. I should be poo-pooing the thought of England winning a Euros. And you should be promoting them.
You've got to be balanced.
Should we change seats?
I'm just...
No, we've got to be balanced and equitable. I mean, if you were looking at England...
you don't want to play against them.
But how would you set... If you had an opposition side that was of a decent level, and I don't mean Scotland, how would you set up?
It's totally unnecessary.
Well, it's just factual, Graham, and we know I like to wear facts.
We're a small little nation of less than 5 million.
Yeah.
You're 70 million plus. And
that's fine. And I accept that Iceland were the same and they did a thing to England, right? But the point is, I was going to ask you about setting up against England. What would you do if you had a decent side with a decent opportunity to...
A decent side doesn't beat England.
But if you were having to work with
only the very best teams will beat England.
Okay. But what would you do to stop England then? Or would you expect England to stop themselves with their approach?
I think most teams will say we are going to be sitting deep against England. We will not take them up on an open,
is that what you'd do?
Expansive game.
Yeah, you'd have to approach it like teams do Man City.
But as you asked the question, a decent team, England won't lose to a decent team. They should never lose to a decent team. Only the very best teams out there. There's maybe a handful of teams could beat them on any given day. If it's a two-legged affair, you'd fancy England against anyone in the world right now. I don't think there's any European team that would be confident about playing against England in this year's Euros.
France will. Of course they will.
What weaknesses do you think they've got in England? If you've got to focus on the team's weaknesses, haven't you? If you believe that they're good, right, don't focus on their strengths. You acknowledge them, but you focus on their weaknesses.
Well, depends on what back four he plays. They won't have their first choice.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a bit of a second string, not his first choice, back four. I think if you can break England's press and get to them, you might get some joy. But England are very strong. They're very strong.